We're here with Bryant Priester, Assistant Director of International Undergraduate Recruitment for Purdue University in West Lafayette, Indiana. And we're going to be hearing from Bryant about Purdue and their admissions process today. Bryant, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Just to get started, maybe you could tell us a little bit about your role and what you do as an admission officer.
At Purdue University, my role is to work with students in the international undergraduate admissions process. So my job is to look at all of the multiple countries that we have international students from and develop a recruitment plan that's specific for each country or region of the world. In that sense, I do a lot of travel, approximately 20 weeks a year overseas. I work with, communicating with parents, students, administrators, government officials from around the U.S. and around the world about the application process so that students are most successful in the application to Purdue.
So you travel a lot.
Yeah, so I definitely have the opportunity to see many students in whatever educational system that they're a part of.
Is that one of the favorite parts of the job for you?
I think, for what I do professionally, it helps put things in perspective, where students come from, the challenges that they have to overcome as they complete, their high school experience, and as they think about, for our students, having the opportunity to study in the United States.
So now that we know a little bit about you, can you tell us a little bit more about Purdue University?
Absolutely. So Purdue, we're located in West Lafayette, Indiana. We are a small town, but we're located between two large cities, Chicago, the third largest city in the U.S., and Indianapolis, the 12th largest city in the U.S. Purdue has 40,000 students total, but 30,000 undergraduates. We have about 9,000 international students overall, and about 4,500 international undergraduate students from between 125 to 130 countries, sort of depending on the semester. Purdue currently, according to the United States government, is educating the most international students in the STEM fields in the United States. And STEM refers to science, technology, engineering, and math majors for our students who are studying.
I'm always telling students that U.S. universities and colleges each have their own unique personality. How would you describe the personality of Purdue?
I would say that, the students who ultimately come to Purdue, generally, they have a sense of purpose. Many of our students, especially our international students, I think they sort of see like the end game. They are definitely interested in how can I make my country, how can I make my society, or just my situation better, because a large amount of our students are studying within in the scientific field. I would say that our students definitely want to interact with other students, especially with, many of our students we have obviously Americans as well on campus, and we work very hard to make sure that students have that interaction. Because at Purdue, we have the largest international degree-seeking freshman class in the U.S. Our students who are coming to West Lafayette are studying for 4 full years. So they want the experience, just like any other college student, in the U.S., from the beginning to the end, and we want to make sure our students feel invested, because at this point, it doesn't really matter where you are in the world, they're all considered a Boilermaker, and that's our mascot at Purdue.
You probably get this question all the time. What is a Boilermaker?
Boilermaker sort of refers to, I would say in the early, late 1800s, 19th century, they were the people that made the boilers on the steam engine for trains. And obviously, to be a Boilermaker, it requires you fashioning steel and metal, so you have to be very strong, and so that's where the term Boilermaker came from. So even though there are other, Boilermaker can refer to other things as well, but that's what we use in terms of Boilermaker at Purdue.
And just a note to the students watching, mascots at U.S. schools are pretty important, so you might come across some seemingly funny ones, like the Boilermakers at times. Great. All right, so along the lines of personality, what types of students succeed at Purdue, and who struggles, and why might those students either succeed or struggle?
I think it's fair to say that obviously Purdue is a very large school. Students who ultimately succeed are those who take advantage of the resources that we have. And also, if there are difficulties or things that they feel empowered to ask, employees or staff members about, whatever situation they may need more information about. Those who sort of don't understand that or who don't feel compelled to ask for things when, a problem could be in its infancy and then it gets larger, those are students who probably could have more difficulties in doing that. And then a way to work with students, because there are sort of many different sort of cultural considerations when thinking about, well, I need to ask for help. And so we try to educate our students that during our international orientation, as part of being a student at Purdue, as part of being a part of as a university student in general, if you have questions, ask us, let us know, find a staff member. I don't know every single aspect of every single office at Purdue, but my job is to figure out those questions, at being a university representative and an employee, so that students are aware of the services for them.
Now, you mentioned Purdue University has about 30,000 undergraduate students,
Yes.
which puts it into the classification of being a large or very large university.
Right.
What is it like for a student to attend a large or very large school like Purdue?
I always tell our prospective students, being at Purdue is like being in a city itself. I mean, in terms of like transportation, the bus systems, in terms of wide variety of restaurants, athletic facilities, walking trails, multiple buildings, classrooms, leisure activities, and the students all around. I mean, we have nearly 1,000 student organizations and clubs. There are multiple faith-based initiatives on campus. So students sort of feel like you're in a city or town itself. I mean, Purdue, we have our own fire department, police department, own golf courses. We have our own airport for students who want to be a pilot training. So I think they sort of see like this is sort of a living, learning community when thinking about West Lafayette. And not only is student centered, but many of our employees live in town and next to campus. I live within a 15-minute walk to school, so I'm a part of that community as well. So I think that's what students sort of need to know. It's not sort of a fenced off sort of area of learning, but it's sort of like a large community where people are interacting and learning.
Part of the reason why Purdue is so large is because Purdue is a public university.
Yes.
Can you explain what it means when students see a school is listed as a public university?
So Purdue University was, we're in the state of Indiana, and public generally refers to we receive part of our operating budget from the state, our state of Indiana, in order to do business on a yearly basis. That does not correlate with prestige or any other sort of metrics. It's just a way that our school is being financed by our individual state in the United States.
So Purdue is also known as a research university. Officially, it has a classification of RUVH, Research University, Very High Research Activity. Can you explain what it means for a school to be a research university?
Being a research university means that corporations, the United States government, military, etc., give money for professors and students to do research on a yearly or multi-year basis for a wide variety of things. That's pretty much the basis for being a high research university. Obviously, I mean, in terms of Purdue, we're known as producing 23 astronauts, so definitely lots of contract within aerospace industry. As well, we have a structural center for earthquakes. So many sort of small things that we work for students on as well. In our Discovery Park, we offer students the opportunity to participate in a contest where we will actually give them money to start their own ventures as well, so that they can undertake their own research that can lead to further educational research. As students, complete their Purdue degree. So That's pretty much, what it centers around, work a collaborative environment with companies, with new ventures and initiatives, whether it's public companies or private companies or even governments.
And the research that you're talking about, does that span all fields, or is that just in the science field, for instance?
It goes through all fields. Obviously, for example, for hospitality and tourism management, Marriott Industries they gave money for a brand new building at Purdue University, which deals with testing and study abroad experience. For our Krannert School of Management, we have a global program where students will have the opportunity to study in multiple different countries around the United States, and also in collaboration with financial sector companies around the world. So it's not just specifically to science majors. It borders across all of the 200 majors that we offer at Purdue. One specifically is food science. We have World Food Scholars, which is pretty much the Emmys of working in food research, on our campus, whose job is to find ways of working with in order to make food more accessible to many of the populations of the world where they don't have food.
Bringing it back to Purdue as a whole, can you describe what a student can expect in their day-to-day life when they attend a large public research university? And maybe from your experience, how might that be different? How might their experience be different at maybe a smaller university?
I think that at a large public university, there are many options to socialize and interact with people, and I think that many of our students have to sort of figure out what am I really interested in, because it's very easy to sign up for 10 clubs and your first semester, your first year, but then as time goes on, you sort of realize, well, this is what I really want to do. This is what I really want to focus my time and energy and effort on as they sort of think about what they want to participate in. It's with so many students, obviously, you have to make the opportunity to make moments to see the people that you want to see, because you may not see everyone, on a particular given day. Specifically in terms of what you do. I should say that, obviously with so many different majors and schools, the majors are broken up into different schools. So most smaller schools, all of the majors may be in one particular school, but, at Purdue, for example, engineering is in the College of Engineering, hospitality is in Health and Human Sciences, food sciences in the College of Agriculture. So the majors are broken down into specialty schools, which allow students to have more of an experience that relates specifically to their own degree of study. And every department of school have their own specialized programs and services specific for their majors as well. That does not mean that students can't interact with each other, and that does not mean that students have the right to switch majors, but that's another line of thought. But the point is, students are given a little bit more leeway in terms of, well, these are the things that you can do on an overall basis, and I think that at the end of the day, trying to figure out what is the best thing for me. If I like this, I'm going to continue this. If not, then I have the option of doing something else.
A slightly different question. Okay. Purdue is located in West Lafayette, Indiana, as you said before, and West Lafayette is considered to be a college town,
Yes.
Which is a term that students will often see when they're doing their research.
Right.
Can you explain what is a college town, and using West Lafayette as the example?
Absolutely. Pretty much a college town refers to the university is pretty much the center of the experience in the town. Most of the activities, most of the services, most of the programs is for the students, the 40,000 or so students who are in the West Lafayette area studying at Purdue. So when activities happen, they're generally for our students coming on campus. I mean, and for of general interest. We bring in concerts, of well-known speakers around the world. One of my favorite authors is coming to Purdue this fall to give a talk, even though I may be traveling and I won't be able to see him. Obviously, football, and we're part of the Big Ten Athletic Conference. That's very big. And so all of these programs and events that we do during the year, they attract not only Purdue students, but also, the 420,000 alums that we have at, across the United States and across the world, who are Purdue as well. We've had alums come from, other countries just to go to, the rivalry games at, Purdue, so.
Along with being in a college town, geographically, Purdue is located in the Midwest portion of the United States. Can you talk a little bit about life in the Midwest and what students can expect by living in the Midwest?
Absolutely. So, and I should say, I'm originally from the East Coast, so I've lived in the Midwest for a number of years because I now work at Purdue. But being in the Midwest, it is probably it's a flatter part of the United States, so it's not as mountainous as the East or the West Coast. In the Midwest, you get 4 distinct seasons per year. So it snows in the winter. It's very warm. In the summer as well. And also being in the Midwest, you're in between. The East Coast, the cities of the East Coast, and the cities of the West Coast. So it is pretty much being in the middle of the United States in that sense. Generally, the cost of living is cheaper, and the roads are less crowded, easier to get around in general, and I think that students sort of feel the way I like to describe, I guess, the sensibility of being in the Midwest. If you watch the movies and you see like the American flags on the porches and the parades and the town square, that sort of gives you that sort of like the idea of being in the Midwest, I guess. Living there for numerous amount of years now. So.
And what are the people like in the Midwest?
I think everyone is generally nice wherever you go in the United States. I wouldn't say that's any different than being in the U.S. But being a part of a university town that I can speak to specifically, I mean, obviously the people who work and who are from Indiana, who work at Purdue, they know that Purdue is definitely receive many international students and families from all over the world on a yearly basis, and people go out of their way to make people feel at home in the community. I think that's something that's just not unique to just Midwest. I think just in general you would find that overall. But I definitely think but in the Midwest, people invite you to a potluck, or a picnic, or these things. I definitely see that happen slightly more often, being in the smaller towns there. So in Indiana.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back to hear more from Bryant about the application process.